International Media TV. Television that listens to you.
Hi, I'm Johnnie Burrell. Welcome to the program.
When my father came home from Afghanistan, he told me about dust. The way it swallowed a country and caked onto the windows of his bee hut, he said it was better that way. So you could imagine yourself to be somewhere else. But not all of us have this luxury. Some of us cannot help but witness the war outside of our bedrooms. Not all of us can imagine ourselves anywhere other than Fruitvale Station. Because colored boys are taught to make heaven out of this unholy skin and forget the way their grandmothers hold sorrow underneath their fingernails. And he said it was better that way. So you could imagine yourself to be somewhere else, and so did Fox News. And CNN and the United States Congress, they imagine themselves to be somewhere else, somewhere where the gunshots are less loud, less disruptive during the funeral of that last dark boy. They imagine themselves to be somewhere where the difference between them mattered. They tried to turn sirens into lullabies and sing us into forgetting that we live in a country where Zimmerman and Meserly sound the same, where headlines like, "Is Michael Brown the next Trayvon Martin?" remind us that there will always be another black boy to be the new face of your progress, where the Ferguson Police Department carry more gear than my father did in Afghanistan. And I imagine myself to be somewhere else, somewhere where writing about this makes a difference because guilt is a burning city underneath my skin. When I write poems about experiences that I have never had and knives that have never been dragged across my own flesh. When the suburb I live in is made out of the ashes of this chaos and the best I can do is tweet about it. And my father asked me what's going on because he spent too much time staring at the dirt-covered windows that we are calling the law. And I asked myself what's going on because I am tired of watching men unhinge their jaws and swallow my sisters. And I am tired of pretending like there was nothing I could do to stop them. The same way Marvin Gaye asked us what's going on because he wore a bulletproof vest on tour, as if it could become skin that looks less like a target. But not all of us have this luxury. Some of us cannot help but see heaven when we see tear gas. Not all of us can imagine ourselves anywhere other than in our own skin. And it is important for you to know that I should not have written this poem because the boys and girls in this poem are not me. And I have seen their breath taken out of them so many times. I do not want to make revolution out of the sons and daughters that we lost. Instead, I want to make revolution out of the sons and daughters that we still have left.
That was Caitlin Clark. Caitlin, come out again. About 3 weeks ago, John Legend in the Hollywood Bowl had a ceremony and performance celebrating the 1971 album, What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. Many of us will remember that album. There's certain lines that when I hear them today, I cry. Picket lines, picket signs, don't punish me with brutality. Crime is increasing, trigger-happy policing, make me want to holler, throw up my hands. So John Legend had scheduled this event before the events of Ferguson had happened, and he wanted to make sure that younger people had their voices heard. So he asked young poets to come and talk about what they felt about Ferguson. And Caitlin Clark, who is in high school, she is in high school, in the words of Gawker, stole the show. We'll be doing a lot tonight looking backwards, looking back at civil rights and back at civil rights legends and heroes, but we think it's important to move forward because we want to stand side by side with the younger generation, and at some point we will get out of their way, but we think it's important not just to have the gray hairs honored. So I want to thank my friend John Crew for telling us about Caitlin. His daughter Simone helped train her and was her coach, so we're so glad to have you here, and we're so glad to have your words inspire us. I'm Eva Paterson. I'm president and co-founder of the Equal Justice Society. We're so glad to have you here to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. There are a number of people, and I think by the end everybody in the audience will probably stand up, but here are the people that I want to stand up. The board of Equal Justice Society, the staff of Equal Justice Society, the members of the steering committee for the Civil Rights at 50, the volunteers who've helped make tonight, and then we have high school students who actually worked with us this summer and gave us a lot of insights about things. So if you come in any of those categories or in all of those categories, please stand up and let us recognize you. I particularly want to thank Anna, Ginger, and Misha, who have just been tirelessly working to make this happen. So big applause for them as well. Keith Kamisugi, the communications director of the Equal Justice Society, interviewed all of the honorees. And one of the things that one of our honorees, Howard Moore, said is that the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 marked the end of Jim Crow. Although we seem to have not put the stake through his heart, he seems to keep reviving himself. But certainly some of the most blatant instances of segregation are behind us. The Equal Justice Society wants to be part of that tradition of working for racial equality. Our tagline is transforming the nation's consciousness on race through law, social science, and the arts. Many of the things we're doing have to do with law and social science. I see some of our colleagues here today. We're working on the disproportionality of suspensions of Black and Latino kids in schools. We are taking on a problem in Kern County where if you are a Black student, your chance of being suspended is 589% higher than if you're white. If you're a Black student, your chance of being suspended is 589% higher than if you're white. If you're Latino, it's 349% higher. I can just give you a couple of examples of what we found. A young man was in the free breakfast program. He was going through the line to get food. He took an extra piece of banana bread. He was suspended for theft. These are the kinds of things that are going on in our schools. We're bringing to bear social science and mind science because we think that most people today don't think they're racist. We probably think that Darren Wilson, who shot Michael Brown, does not think race had anything to do with it. There are large numbers of people in society who think the killing of unarmed Black people has nothing to do with race. So one way we have had of engaging people in a conversation is to talk about the unconscious, to talk about stereotypes, to talk about racial anxiety. This is a way to get people to deal with race without calling them racist. People have talked about racism without racist, and this is one of the phenomena that the Equal Justice Society is taking on. We also are trying to transform the law. We're going to be filing a brief in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal challenging the exclusion of Black people from juries. When there are desegregated and diverse juries, you generally have better outcomes, fewer Black people are convicted, and it helps to stop the flow of the school to prison pipeline. One of the things that we have found out, thank you. Our friends Wilson Sonsini, who are with us all the time, are co-authoring that brief with us. We hope that other civil rights organizations will sign on because we want people to think that it's not just black people who care about the exclusion of black people from jurors. So some of you will be hearing from me this week. I particularly want to thank the people from YBCA. Deborah Cullinan, who I think is in the room. You're pointing to her. Deborah, please stand up. Thank you. She's the head of YBCA. We met with her a couple of months ago, and it was like she was like a civil rights lawyer, and I was like an entertainment producer. We were kind of on the same wavelength, and they are very committed to social justice. They manifest that through the artistic presentations they have and in the partnerships that they have, and we're glad to be partnering with you this year, and we hope we continue partnering with you through the years. Isabel and Jose Maria also were very involved in this. Yay! We had great talks about the World Cup as that was going on. And then the person I really want to call out, and I don't know where he is Charles Ward. Where's Charles? Charles Ward and his lovely wife Cheryl. Marcus Shelby says that the two of them go to every cultural event in the Bay Area. So if you're going to an event and they're not there, you're not at the right event. So Charles Ward opened the doors to us. They're both on the steering committee for civil rights at 50. We thank them so very, very much. Thank you so much. The last person I want to thank is Sam Renaissance. I don't know if you saw that incredibly beautiful image that he produced of the I Am a Man March, the Memphis sanitation strike in 1968. Sam, are you here? Those of you who have deep checkbooks, buy this man's art. Buy this man's art. He's really fantastic. That piece of art is hanging in our office. Brian Schwartz paid to get it framed for us, and we love it. I would like to introduce the newest member of the EJS board, Alfred Freo. He is a partner in the Shepard Mullen Law Firm. He was introduced to us by our another board member, Priscilla Ocean. I loved meeting with him in Los Angeles because he's a cool guy, and he also was able to bring the notion of affordable housing into a corporate firm. So he's able to take the skills that he has in order to advance the interest of the people. So, Alfred Freo.
Love you. I tell Eva I do affordable housing at Shepard Mullen, and I'm just waiting for folks to come to my door and start asking me questions about it. My fellow partners know. We have a good time at Shepard Mullen doing work that is social justice based, work that is based on equity and community building. And it's a great privilege for us to continue to support Equal Justice Society, both as a firm and also myself personally. I am the newest member of the board. I got invited at the request of Priscilla Ocean, who's on the board as well, who's a friend of mine, to lunch, and with the idea that I would learn more about the Equal Justice Society. What she didn't tell me was that Eva was going to be at the lunch. And so that basically sealed the deal for me. I can't say no to Eva, and I admire her tremendously, and it's a great privilege for me to be able to serve for such an amazing organization. Tonight, I have the distinct privilege of honoring Senator Ed Hernandez. He's one of our honorees tonight. Senator Ed Hernandez has the privilege of representing Senate District 24 in the San Gabriel Valley near Los Angeles. He represents parts of Los Angeles, San Gabriel, Irwindale, Rosemead, Azusa, and a bunch of other beautiful cities in Southern California. Senator Hernandez was elected on a platform around equality and access to health care. He's an optometrist. He's also a small business owner. We were very happy and delighted that he was elected to the Senate. He is a trailblazer and champion for those that are underrepresented in his district. This year, he took the courageous stand in attempting to finally and once and for all begin to dismantle Proposition 209. Many of you know Proposition 209 was yes. Prop 209 was adopted in 1996, and in one fell swoop, denied government the ability to use race as one of many other factors in considering the qualifications of individuals that are pursuing employment and pursuing higher education in California. And we have seen the incredible impact that has. It decimated the number of diverse students in higher education throughout our university system. And so, knowing that this was a tremendous challenge, knowing that it was important to do it, and looking at the importance of it rather than balancing the political challenges around it, Senator Hernandez took it upon himself to author Senate Constitutional Amendment 5, SCA 5 this year, working together with EJS and other enlightened organizations in California, put forward this amendment. He was fortunate enough to pass it in the Senate. Unfortunately, it was not passed by the Assembly, but Senator Hernandez is not giving up. He's going to present it again next year, and we're going to be behind him, supporting him in this effort. And for his spirit of championing the cause of the importance of diversity, championing the cause of the importance of race and ethnicity, and considering those factors, because we know that race still matters. We know that the color of your skin still matters. And so we need courageous senators and assembly members that take the mantle of equal justice and bring it forth in the chambers of the Senate and the Assembly. And for that reason, we're honoring Senator Hernandez tonight. I think of one of my heroes, Maya Angelou, who talks about the idea that we've all been paid for. Folks that we don't know, that we've never met, or ancestors. She talks about our fathers' fathers and their fathers. Our mothers' mothers and their mothers have worked so tirelessly to protect and champion for our rights, to step up and do the right thing. And so our lives have been paid for, and our obligation is to pay it forward. She says it's our obligation to keep a good thing going. And Senator Hernandez continues to do that. He does it every day in the Senate for his constituents. He does it every day for all of California. And for that, we honor him tonight. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to be with us tonight, so I have the distinct opportunity to both present an award and accept an award on behalf of Senator Hernandez. So I'm sure he's very honored. Unfortunately, he had an unforeseen family commitment tonight and can't be with us, but he has been delighted to work with EJS. We'll continue to do so, and we'll hopefully have more progress to share with you next year. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Wow, I think we can do better than that. Good evening. This is a celebration. This is a celebration of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which was preceded by the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. My name is Priscilla Ochen. I'm a member of the board of directors. I was invited to join the board, and it was one of the most distinct honors of my life to join hands and to work with such amazing members of the staff of the Equal Justice Society, the members of the board of directors of the Equal Justice Society, and particularly Eva Paterson, the executive director. And the reason why this is such an honor for me is because I understand, and as our ancestors understood, freedom isn't free. Right? It costs time, it costs money, it costs blood, it costs treasure. And so we're all here joining together to carry forward the mantle, to carry forward the banner of equal justice under law that was articulated so fervently and so passionately by those who represented the civil rights movement in the 1960s and moving forward. As Eva said, we're not just looking backward, we're looking forward as well, and we're honoring those people who continue to hold and push forward the front lines of equal opportunity and racial justice in California and in the United States more broadly. And one of those people is Fred Jordan. Please give him a round of applause to start. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Mr. Jordan. When the 49ers, which had their opening season, which is a national holiday, apparently in San Francisco, when they opened their season in 2003, rather than being inside of the stadium, Mr. Jordan was outside protesting the lack of contracting dollars that went to Black and Latino and Asian American and women-owned firms. Less than 2% of the contracting dollars of over $1 billion project went to people of color or women-owned contracting firms. For decades, Mr. Jordan has been on the front lines advocating for fairness and equal access for work on behalf of contractors and others, minority business enterprises in California and elsewhere. He's the president of the San Francisco African American Chamber of Commerce, where he brings together folks who are aligned for justice, aligned for economic justice, which was one of, again, the central tenets of the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. This measure of economic justice is at the heart of the work that Mr. Jordan does. He's the president of F.E. Jordan Associates, an engineering and construction management firm, where he's completed over 1,000 projects throughout the Western United States, Africa, and Central America. He's born in Washington, D.C. He graduated from Howard University with a degree in civil engineering and a master's degree at Stanford University. He's also served our country in the Vietnam War. In sum, Fred Jordan has been, again, on the front lines pushing for equality, not just in terms of the formalities of the law, but in fact. He's been pushing forward consistently and ensuring that our state distributes its resources in a manner that is equitable, ensuring that we have material equality in California. And on behalf of the Board of Directors of the Equal Justice Society, I'm honored to present this award to Mr. Fred Jordan.
Well, thank you, Priscilla Ocean. That's a wonderful introduction. Sound like something I wrote. But I am so pleased and honored to be here, primarily because EJS represents passionately what I am all about: justice, access, opportunity. And so I've been just looking forward to this. I've been excited. In fact, I arrived when I first got here. A friend of mine, congratulated me and said, "Are you nervous?" And I said, "No." So she said, "Well, how come you're in the women's bathroom?" But I am excited. I am excited. I am excited. This is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity here. And so also I have 3 minutes here, and I'm reminded that Abraham Lincoln said that if he had to write a 3-minute speech, it would take him about 2 days. If he had to do a 15-minute speech, it would take him 6 hours. And if he had an hour or more, he could start right now. So in honor of the senator, I'd like to borrow a minute or two here, and I'm sure he would appreciate that. But Eva Paterson, I love. We have been in the struggle for over 20 years, and I know what she's about, and she is my leader, and we were on Proposition 209. She filed 4 lawsuits, and I was one of the plaintiffs. And we were out there. We sued the governor. We sued the attorney general. We sued everybody, trying to defend, trying to stop 209 from going through. And I think that Proposition 209 was just a cover for discrimination. It perhaps is the worst law to stop progress for people of color in my lifetime. And I will never give up. And I know that EJS will never give up because it is an injustice. And even today, you know, this whole thing, the aftermath of Proposition 209 is like a cancer. It just continues to grow. I mean, it didn't just happen after 1996 and went a few years and then we recovered. Oh no, it's getting worse. I'm reminded of the high-speed rail, California high-speed rail. That is the largest public works project in the country, $68 billion. And so, you know, I sit on the high-speed rail, and when we first had our first meeting, we looked up, and, you know, we had the facts came through that minorities and women were participating at 0.5%, and small business was less than 7%. And we said, how come? Well, Proposition 209, you know, we can't do anything, that's it. Say, oh, no. So anyway, we went through a 2-year battle, 24/7, and I'm chair of another organization called APAC, Associated Professionals and Contractors, and with the help of Senator Boxer and Congresswoman Barbara Lee, we went 2 years. I went to the FRA, went to all the congressional people. We even tried to get an executive order from the president. Finally, we end up with the Title VI, and that Title VI stopped them. And so today we have 30% participation, and we have 10% minority participation, 30% for small business. Within that is 10% minority, and I sit on the council, and we're accomplishing it. And that we're accomplishing. And so we're not going to let that get around. I mean, we have other ways. I mean, for instance, like the terminal down here, the Trans-Bay Terminal. It's a $1.5 billion project. We're getting ready to put up a building that's 100 stories. That's going to be the tallest building west of the Mississippi. But that terminal came in, the black chamber here in San Francisco, the African American chamber. We went down and we asked and said, hey, what's the participation and all of that. And they blew us off. You know. And so, you know, we said, well, how can we stop this? And so we searched around, and then we looked at the tourism here at San Francisco is doing all of this hospitality and tourism, $9 billion a year. And so we said, no, we can't keep losing. So we said, well, maybe we ought to have a boycott, just like they did in Miami. We ought to write every black organization in this country, tell them don't come to San Francisco because San Francisco does not earn their money at 1/2 or 1% African American participation in this city. And it stopped them. Because that's when you get to the pocketbook. All right? And so I could go on and on. I mean, Caltrans is out here, and I keep saying this because it keeps going. Caltrans has not retained an African American professional in 17 years. And they have 600 certified professional firms on its roster. They certified the firms. And I mean, it's just so blatant. But all I'm saying is that we have to keep on keeping on. We have to keep on fighting. And we're not going to give up. We're committed by any means necessary. Sounds familiar to me. By any means necessary. And so I want to take this opportunity to say thank you so much to Equal Justice Society. You are about what I am about, and we shall never give up. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mona Tawatau, and I'm a senior litigator with Western Center on Law and Poverty in Sacramento, and a very proud board member of the Equal Justice Society. It is my distinct pleasure to present the next award to the law firm of Wilson, Sonsini, Goodrich, and Rosati for their outstanding work as EJS's co-counsel on two key amicus briefs to the United States Supreme Court. In the Mount Holly case, Wilson Sonsini played a critical role in crafting the amicus brief submitted on behalf of top social scientists and scholars from across the country. That brief explains why, because of implicit and unconscious bias, a place that African American and Latino families call home can be dismissed by a town council as blight that needs to be torn down. And why, because of the way racial bias operates, it is so important to be able to prove housing discrimination through the discriminatory effects of a decision maker's actions. In the Fisher v. University of Texas brief, Wilson Sonsini analyzed and translated study upon study on implicit bias to make understandable the connection between social science and why integrated schools are good for all students, both physically and psychologically. The brief makes the case, the strong case, that there is indeed a compelling interest in considering race in higher education admissions and beyond. EJS believes it is our obligation to carry on in the tradition of Thurgood Marshall and his groundbreaking work with social scientists in Brown v. Board of Education, to ensure that the law reflects what science tells us about how bias and racism actually work, and that in today's world, insistence on an intent standard alone is wrong and hurts all of us. In so many ways, big and small, Wilson Sonsini has shown extraordinary commitment, rigor, and passion in helping EJS fulfill this mission. For this, we are so very grateful, and we are counting on an enduring partnership. As Eva mentioned, Wilson Sonsini is again helping us with a very important brief that is in the Ninth Circuit. Please join me in welcoming David Berger and Savith Iyengar to the stage to accept this award on behalf of Wilson Sonsini, Goodrich, and Rosati.
Thank you. It's a great privilege to be out here. I'm David Berger, partner at Wilson Sonsini, also chair of the Pro Bono Committee. I'm reminded one of the first things I learned as a young lawyer was when you win something, say thank you and then go sit down, or else they might take it away from you. With that in mind, I'm going to be very brief. Just two things consistent with Eva's message about thinking of the future and the past. With respect to the future, we're very proud at Wilson Sonsini of our relationship with EJS, and they really are doing what we think is fighting the leading battles and really taking the lead in thinking about the issues of justice and equality far beyond what we're seeing in most organizations today. And what we're doing is really a privilege to be working with them and seeing the next generation of EJS attorneys as well as Wilson Sonsini attorneys working with them. So we feel real proud to be part of that structure. If I may look at the past for a moment, and as you can tell, I have a lot of past to look at. I want to encourage all of you who haven't seen it yet. One of my great pleasures has been working with Eva Paterson. And one of the first times I met Eva, we had a long discussion over lunch, and it was a great privilege. I want to urge you tonight, after all of this is done, to go back and look on YouTube and find a debate between Eva Paterson and Spiro Agnew. It was on the old David Frost show, and it will remind you, in a way, why we're all here. Eva Paterson has been doing this for a long, long time, And to her credit, she has been leading the way for all of us, and we should be forever grateful for all of her efforts. Eva, thank you.
Thanks, David. I just want to recognize a few individuals by name, and I'm not as eloquent as David or Mr. Jordan, and so I have written them down. I just wanted to, again, mention the brilliant legal minds at EJS. Of course, Eva, Allison Elgart, who's unfortunately not here. She has the flu. And folks who aren't there anymore, Fabian Venturia, Braz Shabrel, Leila Razavi. Of course, the 29 researchers and scientists who supplied the empirical data for our Supreme Court briefs. And the folks at Wilson Sonsini, the attorneys and staff who are tremendous, and they made these briefs a reality. Folks like, of course, David, Beth Saunders. Can I name them all without looking down? Yes. Jasmine Owens, Jason Goomer, Stephen Strain, Joy Kim, Jack Miller. Some of them are here today. Of course, Mark Parnes leads the way in many respects, and we appreciate him as well. And if I may add one more thing on a personal level, I'm no longer with the firm. I'm now a deputy city attorney. But as I begin my career in government, and thanks to EJS and WSGR, I will certainly never, ever forget the importance of this cause of racial justice in education, as you heard, in housing, and of course by municipalities. And so, a personal thank you to EJS, a personal thank you to WSGR, and I truly hope that EJS and WSGR continue to work together for many, many, many years. Thank you all.
And now, back to Eva for a very special presentation.
I'm just smiling ear to ear because one of the things, thank you. One of the things that's very important to us is relationship. Hi, I see some of my really good friends out there. Hello. All of you are my really good friends. But we're about relationships, and I just am smiling because we've built these relationships and we're deepening them, and it's just great, and we're so glad all of you are here. The next award goes to friends of mine, and it's been kind of tricky for me about how to deal with this, because I can talk about all the times we hang out together, but I decided that I need to be more formal. And so I want to really bring to your attention the work of Jane and Howard Moore. I thought Jane was born in Atlanta because I think of her as a Georgian, but she was actually born in Tennessee, in Nashville. Her father was Horace Mann Bond, who was known as a race man. And some of you are old enough to know what that means. That means somebody back in the day who really cared about what was happening with Negroes. I think Negroes are colored back in that time. But he was a race man, and he was also a brilliant scholar. I've talked a lot to Jane because she's one of my best friends, and she grew up in a kind of a very protected community, kind of sheltered in a way from a lot of the overt racism that was going on in the South. And she could have been oblivious to racism and just kind of gone about her way, but she didn't do that. As a young woman, she worked for a group called the Southern Regional Council and monitored lynchings. As I was reading about this, I was thinking about, I think it was Ida Wells Barnett, who hung a sign outside, I think, the NAACP offices every day that a black man was lynched. And I've thought about that historically, but to think that my friend was actually monitoring that kind of gave me chills. And it also made me think that a similar flag could be hung out today about when an unarmed black person is shot by a policeman or a George Zimmerman or someone like that. So the way that terrorism, if you will, is inflicted upon people of color in this country has shifted. But Jane has always been there on the front lines. She also worked with SNCC. She moved to Berkeley in 1971, and there are a couple of our classmates here, Claudia Wilkin and John True. We were all at Bolt when they used to let black people go to Bolt Hall. And you may think I'm joking, but there were 30 black students in our class in 1972. The year after Proposition 209, which Fred Jordan talked about, was passed, there was one black student in the class. But it was a very different time in that time. She went on to work for the FTC. She also has worked for the Oakland Unified School District. She has taught classes at the John F. Kennedy School of Law and Employment Law and Civil Rights Law. Those of us who know her well know that she also is a mystery writer, and so someday we'll hear her on Fresh Air or Charlie Rose talking about her murder mysteries that take place in the South. She also is an amazing woman. She, I think every year on her birthday, tries to do a triathlon, running and biking and swimming. It's tiring just to hear it, but that's what she does. She's married to the love of her life, Howard Moore Jr. Howard was born in Atlanta. As a young boy, he had a paper route and thought that he was going to be a journalist. After he graduated from, I guess, high school and college, he went into the Army. Then he went to Boston University Law School and ended up clerking for Judge Wyzanski. He then returned to Georgia, and I was doing research on him and was startled to learn that he was one of 10 black attorneys in the state of Georgia. Despite this fact, he was relentless in terms of fighting for justice, was a lawyer to the movement, and did a lot of cutting-edge work. He and Jane moved to Berkeley in 1971 to successfully defend Angela Davis. That's when I met them both. I met their son Kojo, who's here. Kojo's there. Kojo and his sister Constance and their other sister Jane. They're friends of mine, and I won't tell of all our exploits, but I've known them for quite a long time, and they're lovely, lovely people. Howard continued litigating in the area of racial justice and civil rights after he finished successfully defending Angela Davis and perhaps saving her life. I actually got to co-counsel with him on some cases. Bill Lee, I think, was on some of those cases as well against the Naval Air Rework Facility in Alameda. Then I'll talk, so that's what they're like separately, but together they're pretty amazing. He's a Morehouse man, and she went to Spelman, and that means a lot to many of us in the community, okay, some Morehouse people. And they're just wonderful people. They've raised 3 wonderful kids. They care about things. They're at a time in their lives when they could just kick back and kind of not care about things, but they care a lot. And they're wonderful people. They're my dear friends. I'm so glad that they're here. Let us recognize Jane and Howard Moore.
Hello, I'm Jane, and I do want to make one small correction. I didn't monitor lynchings. They had ceased by the time I was working I'm not that old. I'm old, but not that old. I did monitor school desegregation cases and some voting rights activity when I worked with the Southern Regional Council many, many years ago. And I have to say that I'm really honored, and Eva is such a good friend, to recognize me with very meager civil rights background, but I'll take it. I don't care. I'm very happy. And thank you so much, Eva. And I want to thank the Equal Justice Society and all of you here for coming to support them. And I also, great minds think along the same way. I thought the same thing, that we should develop some sign or something that we can display every time a black person is wrongfully killed by the police. There should be some way of bringing the attention to everyone. So thank you very, very much. And thank you, Eva.
Good evening. I want to thank Eva Paterson and the Equal Justice Society for recognizing Jane and me on this occasion as an observance of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. I don't really like to be acknowledged in a way because I've always considered myself to be a guerrilla fighter in this war for equal rights. And as a guerrilla fighter, you don't want to bring much attention to yourself, so you can move behind enemy lines. And I've always been behind enemy lines in a way, because I started out in the Deep South. I'm in California now, but it's still some of the same vestiges of the things that existed in the South. If Dr. King were here, you would probably hear him say, there are some dark days ahead. And you would probably hear him say something that I'll paraphrase because I may get it wrong. That the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And when I look at people such as Eva and the Equal Justice Society, and you people here and others who support it this evening, I see you as benders, bending towards justice, helping to bring about justice in this country. Within the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to be confronted, and we're now confronted, with a life and death struggle. We cannot afford to be passive in the coming electoral cycles. Too much is at stake. It is too easy to say there's no difference between the two parties, that they're both lesser of two evils. But sometimes the difference that the lesser of two evils make is the difference between life and death. In this coming cycle, we have at risk this year and in 2016, choice, women's health. One vote stands in the way of whether or not women continue to have choice over the health of their bodies. There's on the way to the Supreme Court decisions from all across the United States on whether or not people can celebrate their intimate relationships in marriage. There's only one vote that might be successful in making that the law of this country. There's just too much at stake to be silent. Benders must be active. Give what you can. No gift is too small. No gift is too large. But you've got to be active in this state and other states across the country. We cannot continue to live in a society in which unarmed civilians can be shot by police officers, where a man who's doing nothing more than selling cigarettes one at a time can be wrestled down and killed, where a woman who is grilling on the sidewalk, the police come and find an excuse or reason to kill her, where a young 18-year-old schizophrenic woman in Half Moon Bay, her brother calls the police, telling them that she calls 911 rather, and tells them that he needs help to send medical personnel. Medical personnel don't arrive, but police officers do. And they shoot this woman down, who's about 4'8" and disabled and schizophrenic and only 18 years of age. This has to be changed. And we can change it. But we have to be vigilant. We have to take part in this electoral cycle. The law has gone too far the other way to protect police officers in carrying out the police function so that the citizen has almost no protection whatsoever. That a person, an unarmed person, can be killed and murdered. Even if a police officer can pretend that he or she made a mistake, but it was a reasonable mistake, the lesser of two evils may be the difference between life and death. Let's get busy, benders. Let's bend that moral iron towards justice. And I thank you so much for this award.
Good evening. This is a good evening. Before I start my remarks, I just wanted to offer my thanks. Personally, I'm deeply moved by you, this community of luminaries, and for that I'm very grateful. It's a special occasion to be here with all of you celebrating the good works of Equal Justice Society, and to be in the presence of Eva Paterson, who is an inspiration and mentor to so many people. My name is George Kawamoto, and I'm here to present a Cypre Award to EJS on behalf of the legal team that brought the Lavender versus Skilled Healthcare class action case. The skilled class action was brought to address the inadequacy of care to elderly residents in skilled nursing facilities, stemming from the lack of employing enough staff at these facilities. And it's with a shared vision that EJS's proposed program aims to take that step further by beginning to address racial disparities by doing outreach, research, and identifying model programs in that vein. The improvement of care for elderly residents of skilled nursing facilities is crucial, and it's just becoming a greater and greater issue as more of us continue to age. So it's with a sense of camaraderie and deep respect that I present the Cypre Award to Equal Justice Society in the amount of $150,000.
If you did the silent auction, as you walk out, you can pick up your bids. I was watching you all as you were watching, and I was just feeling that we're all united by a desire to make the world better. We have different causes and different things that we care about. We care about race, or we wouldn't be here tonight. I hope your spirits have felt nourished and you feel like you can go out and take care of business. And I'd now like to introduce for the final comments of the evening, the chair of our board, my friend Kate Kendall. We got to work with her son, her and Sandy's son this summer, Julian. He was fabulous. Without further ado, Kate Kendall, thank you so much for coming.
All right, I'm going to make this super quick because I know that it has been an amazing and inspiring evening. I have had the honor of being a member of the EJS board since its founding 14 years ago. So Eva just can't get rid of me. And it's because of what EJS does. It's evenings like this. This is an unusual evening for me tonight because, well, the best thing that ever happened to me, my partner for 21 years and wife for 6 years is here, Sandy Holmes. We also have our children here, our 14-year-old son, Julian, and our 12-year-old, almost 13-year-old daughter, Ariana. And as Eva said, Julian did an internship at EJS this last summer, and I told Julian tonight that I was asked for the last comments of the evening to encourage you to contribute to support the work of EJS. And so I asked Julian, I said, Julian, what would you say if you were me for why people should give to EJS? And he said, well, I think they should give because one thing that EJS is doing is helping people to understand their unconscious bias and thereby end racial bigotry and prejudice. Now that sounds like a pretty good thing to invest in, don't you think? So while I know And especially this last summer, we read headlines that give us a sense of hopelessness or that really nothing can be done or it's just too big and we can't solve it. You can solve it a little bit tonight. There are envelopes as you exit. Give what you can. And to take words from Howard earlier tonight, you give what you can, and what I promise you is that EJS will bend that arc just a little bit more. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Have a great evening.